funny, whatever the case may be. If it's not acting the way it should, go ahead and hit that emergency stop right away. You have one more little emergency stop safety feature on the back, and that is this little guy right here. It's just almost like a headphone jack. You just pull it out. You pull it out, the whole system will shut down. Okay, it's right all the way to the far right. And it's literally, if you pulled it out, it literally looks like a headphone jack. That's all it is. It's just an interlock that's kind of tied to the old school days where you guys, if you were using a super powerful diode that can shoot 200 feet, you know, this thing only shoots 5 centimeters. But if it shot 200 feet, you would have to have the door closed. You tie that onto the door, and that way if somebody opens it, it just stops everything, right? But it still has to be in there because it's still a class 4 laser, okay? So that's just a safety feature, and then this is your quick safety feature. Make sense? Going into your menu itself, and over here is info. That's just your digital manual. So you have your paper manual that came with it. You have a digital version too. But on the menu, what you guys will probably use the menu for is maintenance, service, and fill cooling reservoir. Okay? So another thing we're going to check daily, or at least weekly, since you guys don't use it that much, is our little window over here. Because we want to make sure this window, that little yellow float, is staying up to the top line. It's just like your coolant reservoir in your car. It has a full line and a fill line. When it's down to the fill line, we want to fill it back up. You guys feel pretty good about filling it back up? You use that? It's full, yeah. But this is the icon you use to do so? Because you want to do this. You just kind of do it manually. Oh, okay, it actually pops up and warns you. Okay. So you can be proactive about it when it's getting low, do it, or you can wait for the warning. That's fine too. It's just going to potentially mess up your day if you're trying to hurry, right? So making sure it's always done is a good idea. So checking at the end of the night, cool, put it to bed, it looks full, we're fine. But this is where you actually fill it up if you're going to do it proactively. Because when you do it, when it gives you a warning, it walks you through all this, right? It'll do the same thing here. We'll click on this. It'll say, please fill the fill kit syringe, right? So we would take distilled water, we'd fill that up, okay? We hit continue again. Is this how it does it when it warns you to? No. Okay. It just goes straight to... Okay. So yeah, it's a good idea to do this because it's also going to run the pump. I don't know if it does that when it warns you, but the pump is a good thing. It's going to run and work out any air bubbles that might be in the system, right? Because we also don't want air bubbles running through here through the coolant that's supposed to be only water, not air. So we hit continue. It says, please connect the kit to the unit, right? So it sounds like you guys already know how to do that, but of course, after it's full of water, you would put it on here. What I would recommend is extruding some into a cup or a sink to make sure it's all water. Get all the air bubbles out. Make sense? And then of course from here, you take it to the back and connect right here. You got it, Doc? It should click when you go to the right. And then after that, you can go ahead and look in here while you're pushing it down either on your hands, or I usually just do it right here, okay? If you go too fast, water will come out. That's a totally normal thing. It's an overflow feature to make sure you're not overfilling it and make sure you're not filling it too fast. So if a little water comes out right here, just kind of clean it up. It's nothing, you're good. You're not broken, okay? That was a built-in feature. Once you have filled it up, you can disconnect this if you want, or you can leave it in because the instructions, so just another little click to the left, because the instructions will tell you to go ahead and fill it now. We did that. And then you hit continue. This is what we want when we fill the cooling reservoir. We want that pump to run. Okay? Because right now it sounds pretty good. And that's probably because you guys do a good job filling it up with no air bubbles. But if you heard it like gurgling, more of a, not a smooth hum like it is right now, that means it's got some air in it. Okay? And we want to work that out. This only runs for about a minute or so. So if you're hearing that gurgling, even by the end of this running, just hit repeat and do it again so it can run the pump again. You won't necessarily be putting more water in, you already filled it, but go ahead and hit that so it'll run again. And what you're really looking for is that your yellow float doesn't drop, right? We want to see that it stayed full. Otherwise, that means there probably was a significant amount of air in the lines. But it sounds great. As long as it keeps sounding like that all the way to the end of that blue progress line, then I'm happy. After that, there's a finish if we're done and it sounded great and we're full, or there's a repeat to do it again, okay? At the end of that, if you hit finish, it's gonna say, please disconnect this and put it away, right? So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. But that's one of our audio clues. Okay, we have a few things that we can listen to check this guy and make sure it's running well as well. Very simple things that you need to do, like the beam test, visual, to check everything, and listening is a good thing too, because when we purge, we're also going to listen for something. So you have a couple visual cues and you have a couple auditory cues. Any questions while we're waiting for that? It's pretty easy, right? So another thing you could do, especially if you have a handpiece that you feel is actually leaking, is do a leak test. So a leak test maybe once a week is not a bad idea, regardless of whether your handpiece is functioning well. And I'll show you guys how to do that. So because we heard a nice, smooth, steady hum, we didn't see the water level drop, we know we're good to go. We're full, right? So we can hit finish. It says, please disconnect the fill kit, and we're done. That's for pretty much most of why you guys would need to use the maintenance screen. It's just that menu, maintenance, service, fill. Okay. Now there are videos and stuff in here that are helpful. There's even a way to purge and prime in here if you wanted to. Long way around to get to the purge and prime in my opinion, because you could just be in a protocol ready to go. But you can do that there. You can go in here and you can watch videos such as how to do a handpiece cleaning, how to do a tip transaction, insertion. There's videos for everything if you needed a refresher. Right? How to use this little tool to do your mirror removal, which we'll go over in a second as well, because we want to check that daily and clean it at minimum weekly. I would clean it daily because you already have it out. But if you're doing that and your red window daily, doing those inspections and cleanings underneath an actual microscope to really see it, you'll be that much better off as well. Okay. So this is some of the things you'll look for with tips, like damaged little ferrule, the glass tube being damaged. So feel free next time you do a beam test, if it looks like it's not the correct pattern, to look at it under a scope and see what it looks like. You'll probably see little fractures. Okay. So for the doctors in the room, right, that was all maintenance stuff, but usage, just because we said we're going to pretend like you've never seen this thing before. You know, the protocols here are pretty plug and play, as you know. Hybrid and solutions are kind of the go-tos. EndoGeek is fully customizable. So once you start getting really familiar with these and you want to do a couple other things, you can go into EndoGeek and do a full programmable mode, right? The water protocol, I assume once we do an update coming up here, it'll just go away, because all the water protocols are in hybrid. Yeah. So if you wanted to do your water protocols, just go with hybrid, right? And then this is just a roadmap. You don't have to click every single button. That'd probably make your procedure take forever, right? This thing should actually speed up your procedure. So don't worry about using every button. In fact, the pre-rinse and the post-rinse are completely optional. And those are really only done with tip number 3 here anyway, or tip 2. Tip 2 is pretty powerful. So you guys know the diameters and the power you get from each tip?
Yeah, I just like the 21 millimeter tip 2.
Tip 2?
Yeah.
So tip 2 is giving you 85% of any allotted power setting, right? So if it's giving you 1.25 watts in a setting, it's only giving you 85% of that, right? So you could do the math like 1.25 times 0.85, whatever. Right. Tip 1 is only giving you 55%, so a little more gentle. And then tip 3, what we have on here now, is the fire hose. It's the one giving you the most power possible. It's 95%, okay? So knowing that's a good thing. And then of course, when you're actually using it, you're going to go in there and you're going to go ahead and get placed where you need to get placed. And then you're going to hit ready mode and step on the pedal and retract only. We should never be going in and out while firing, and we should never be firing while we're going in. It should only be a retraction motion, or if you're doing a pre-rinse or post-rinse where you're just doing coronal conditioning from the chamber, then you're doing something like tip 3 or tip 2, and you're just hovering over the orifices about 4 millimeters above them for anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. When you're conditioning, you're not really inside the canal, so it's really just about cleaning for a nice long period of time. And then how much do you stay in each canal, and how many passes?
Seconds.
Okay. So,
2 rounds of 30 seconds.
like accumulated 30 seconds, like
Each
all
canal.
together, each canal?
Yeah.
Is that like 3 passes of 10, or? Okay.
30, well, I do 30 seconds if it's a big canal,
Okay.
one at a time. So
Okay,
straight 30
okay.
seconds.
Gotcha. Okay. And you've never had any issues with extrusion or anything? Good. So what we usually recommend is just like a a half pull. So if your canal is 20 millimeters, you have 10 millimeters, so averages out to about a 10-second pull, right? So you fire it, you slowly retract 1 millimeter per second, and that way you're getting that 8 to 10-second pull. Make sense? There are definitely lots of reasons to stay in for that long. Sometimes if you get some heme, we've had KOL doctors recommend to just use like water or sodium hypochlorite and just kind of stay in there a little longer with like a tip 1 to help kind of control that and start to seal up some of those capillaries using the thermal effects that it actually has as well. It's a laser, right? It sounds like you have your procedure down, and that's good. As long as you're not experiencing any kind of extrusion of solutions, you're fine. But the goal is about 30 seconds per canal. Usually it's broken up into 3 passes, right? And that's per solution. So you might even be doing 60 seconds. So if you did like EDTA for 30 and you did the sodium hypochlorite for 30, and if you even got in and did the water too, now you're adding even more, right? So, but of course, if you're doing hybrid, there must be a reason you must enjoy the water protocol. Otherwise, you can just go to mid-root. The mid-root solutions protocol doesn't have the water protocol in it. It has the pre and post rinse. Those are always optional, right? That's always like a pre-cleansing cleaning of the chamber to kind of help clean up those orifices. And then you have your post rinse more as a detox, right? We used all these chemicals to clean. Now we're going to just rinse and do it for about a minute. Cool. So obviously you know how to do them, but do you know that each one of these are the same setting?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because you don't have to push every button, right? You could just hit this one and do all your solutions that you do, knowing that you're manually asking for different ones from your staff, but you don't have to hit every button, right? This was designed by an engineer, right? So he thinks very like by the book, do this, this, and this. And obviously you guys know that you don't have to do that. What's your protocol, Doc? You usually do mid-root or you do hybrid?
I do hybrid, and then
Okay.
I don't do the solutions all the time.
Okay.
Depending on if it's really drainage, and then I use the solutions. But I just do the hybrid.
Cool. Cool. Sounds like you know how to use it. Sounds like you're doing it for the 30 seconds per canal. So it sounds like you're good to go, right? So now we'll talk about in between patients maintenance. Okay. What do we do in between patients? So because we primed in the morning, we're primed for the day, unless you switch handpieces. That's the only caveat. Are you guys wiping down the handpiece between patients? Switching them on every patient? Okay. So then you are going to want to do a purge and prime scenario between patients. Okay. Because if you're doing a different handpiece, that means we're taking the handpiece off. And before that handpiece comes off, you have to purge.
Yeah. Is there any drawback of changing handpieces every patient? Like the more times is that?
It'll definitely beat up your O-rings a little faster, but they're built to do what they do. So you could definitely do what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with switching handpieces and having a sterile one for each patient.
We only have one now, so we're gonna use.
What most people do in the field is they wipe it down.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what we're
So you can wipe this whole unit down with Cavicide, which I see you have. The handpiece itself, I would just use that 99% alcohol to really just make your handpiece last as long as it could possibly last, right? Keep it healthy. Cavicide can have a film that gets into things, right? So just wiping this down with Cavicide like you're supposed to, and then wiping that down with your alcohol. And then if you're wiping down between patients, then you don't have to purge and prime. Okay, it sounds like you're gonna kind of have to do that right now with this handpiece, right? So you're gonna wipe this down. When you wipe this down with Cavicide, just gently go down. Don't push up because we don't want to push a bunch of Cavicide into this little coupler. And we don't want to pull on it too hard either, right? So we're always just gently wiping with our Cavicide. Wipe the handpiece holder, wipe the screen, wipe everything that got touched, right? And then when you're wiping this down, don't take that tip off yet, okay? We're going to wipe it. We're going to approach so we do it safely and wipe away. But we want something on there so we don't get alcohol on the mirror, right? Because we talked about the laser path always being an outward path, but we also want the laser path to always be a dry path. Yes, there's water involved, but it's just coming out of these little jets and hitting the tip. It's never supposed to interfere with the laser path. That should be dry. The red window should be dry, the mirror should be dry, and the tip inside should be dry. The water just hits the outside of it, okay? So anytime you're wiping it down as well, we don't want alcohol or Cavicide getting on that mirror, so we always have something in it while we wipe. Make sense? Okay. So once we have wiped the unit down, because you're only using one handpiece and you're wiping the handpiece now, you're already primed. You don't have to purge and prime, okay? We would just be able to shut down, right? Unplug our air, unplug our power, move it to the next room, and set it up just like it's the startup of the day. Plug it back into power, test the air over there to make sure there's no moisture, plug it in, and then get it turned on, and you're already primed. So you can skip that prime window that pops up, right? Now, of course, the tip. If it's time to switch the tip because it's the next patient, then we want to make sure we do it in the right spot. So this is part of your in-between as well, your in-between patients, because we already determined now that you're going to be using one handpiece only. So you're wiping it, not purging and priming by switching handpieces. But you still have a tip on there that needs to be tossed. You need to put a new clean one on, right? So go into any procedure, doesn't matter what, because we want to be at this window. Whenever you're doing a tip, when we've already primed and there's water involved, we want air pumping out to ensure that nothing gets on our mirror. We're trying to keep that mirror dry, right? So if you're not in here, if this is where it left off, like Doc just finished their procedure and you guys are doing the wipe down and switching it over, you just know that that handpiece icon gets you right back here. This is what we want. It defaults to the tip change because that's what you're doing the most. So once we're on there, we can go ahead and take this, pop the old tip off, toss it in sharps, put the new tip on, and then just hit that because you're already primed, right? We already primed for the day. So you might actually enjoy not having to switch hand pieces because you don't have to purge and prime.
Yeah, so I think in between is pretty easy. We just change the tips and warp it down.
You got it. That's all it is. So that's your in-between piece of cake. Not really difficult, right? Pretty much just as easy as a startup, honestly. And the shutdown's just the startup in reverse, okay? So we're gonna do the opposite of what we did last on the startup. So when we did our startup, the last thing we did was what? Primed. Who said that? Is that you? You? So we primed, right? We did everything else. We filled our patient water bottle. We plugged in power. We tested the air, then plugged in. We powered it on. We did our beam test. And then we went ahead and did our prime, right? Oh, and by the way, if you're switching tips, do another beam test, right? So if you put a new tip on, go ahead and click it in ready mode, shine it. If it looks a little distorted, take a gauze and clean off any water, because remember that's why we don't do the whole water thing just yet in the morning. But during the day, it is what it is. You're already primed. So wipe that tip off, do the beam test. If it looks good, then you're good. Anytime you do a new tip, do a beam test. So that's another part of your in-between patients. Okay, but the last thing we did when we turned it on was prime. So the first thing we're gonna do when we turn it off is purge, right? Because we're shutting it down for the night. So this is just gonna have maybe a little spritz of water. You can just put your hand in the way so it doesn't shoot on anybody. But you'll hit that button and you'll hit purge and turn off. Now this is one of our auditory cues we're gonna listen for. We wanna hear a gurgle like that. Now we know that it pushed everything out of that cable and got it into here. So now we know this is dry. Now again, Jacob's a little nutty. So what he'll usually do is just purge twice just to be sure. And you're welcome to do that too. You don't have to. We know that it got in here because we heard it. We heard that gurgle. Especially if you do a purge though and you only hear it right at that last second, right? Then do another one. Maybe it just didn't quite push it all out. Cool? All right, then it says you're welcome to remove handpiece tip and get it shut down. So that's what we do. So we'll go ahead and take this, pop the handpiece off, right? And we did it just like we talked about. We gripped the coupler here. We gripped the handpiece and pushed against our own hand so we can gently remove it. Make sense? You can take the tip off, throw it away, bring this back for the nightly processing that you're gonna be doing now and get it sterilized. We'll go look at your sterilizer in just a sec to make sure that's being done right too. Because these can go through an autoclave about 720 plus times, quite a bit, right? You shouldn't have to replace them for years to come. But there are some things we could do back there that are gonna lessen its life, okay? Okay, so a leak test. So now that we've kind of gone through everything, all the way up to shutdown, you kind of know the basics now. So let's do maybe some troubleshooting stuff. Sound good? So a leak test is pretty simple to do. All you wanna do is make sure it's functioning right. So we're gonna do a few of the things that we do to make it function. So we're gonna go in here to the menu. I do like to use this for my leak test just because it's easier. Maintenance and purge and prime. That way we're just already in this window because we're gonna prime 3 times and purge once. So you might as well be in a window where it's quick and easy. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and hit prime. And this is how I knew your unit was definitely primed because it shouldn't do it till the last second. There you go. But it should have a nice strong stream. If you ever find when you're doing your morning prime, it just does it for 1 split second right at the end, by all means, do another one. Just get it, make sure it's primed, right? So we're gonna hit OK. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna do 3 primes, 1 purge, then we're gonna pull this off and look at everything. Make sure everything looks good, moisture's not where it's not supposed to be, and so on. And that's called a leak test. Usually it's just a troubleshooting thing. It's something you're gonna do if you feel like there's something going wrong, but you can be proactive about this too. Do it once a week. Yeah, do a little leak test. Why not? Why not just make sure everything's good? So now we're gonna purge. We did our 3 primes.